We start this evening with the latest tensions between the United States and Iran. The International Court of Justice has ordered the United States to lift the sanctions it imposed on Iran following the withdrawal of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. In response, the Trump administration announced it is unilaterally withdrawing from a decades-old treaty with Iran. RT correspondent Dan Cohen has the story.
The ruling was delivered early Wednesday morning in The Hague. The ICJ judges unanimous in their decision that the Trump administration's reimposition of sanctions is in violation of the Treaty of Amity. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced the withdrawal from the treaty, which grants the ICJ jurisdiction, and accused Iran of exploiting the court.
I'm announcing that the United States is terminating the 1955 Treaty of Amity with Iran. This is a decision, frankly, that is 39 years overdue. Iran is attempting to interfere with the sovereign rights of the United States to take lawful actions necessary to protect our national security. And Iran is abusing the ICJ for political and propaganda purposes.
The Treaty of Amity dates back to the reign of the Shah. It predates the 1979 Iranian Revolution and was signed just 2 years after the U.S.-backed coup d'etat against the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953. The treaty encourages mutually beneficial trade and consular relations between the U.S. and Iran. The ICJ ruling says that the U.S. must remove any impediments to the export of humanitarian goods, including food, medicine, and aviation safety equipment. Writing on Twitter, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said the U.S. is addicted to sanctions and called the ruling a victory for international law. Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, echoed Pompeo and said the U.S. is additionally withdrawing from the optional protocol to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and will no longer be signatory to any treaty that binds the U.S. to the ICJ rulings.
We will commence a review of all international agreements that may still expose the United States to purported binding jurisdiction, dispute resolution in the International Court of Justice. The United States will not sit idly by as baseless, politicized claims are brought against us.
This is just the latest snub to multilateral institutions by the United States. In September, President Trump rejected the International Criminal Court in front of the United Nations General Assembly.
As far as America is concerned, the ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority.
But without the support of Europe, the Trump administration may find itself isolated in its mission to pressure Iran. Reporting in Washington, Dan Cohen, RT.
We now turn to Dan Kovalik, professor of international human rights at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law and author of the book, The Plot to Attack Iran. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Thank you.
You know, Pompeo mentions trying to get rid of a Treaty of Amity from 1955 and that it should have been done 39 years ago. Can you briefly explain what caused that treaty to be signed in the first place and what has been going on between the U.S. and Iran over these last few years?
Right. So the U.S. signed the treaty 2 years after it had overthrown the democratic government of Mohammad Mossadegh and installed the Shah of Iran, who ruled brutally through a security service known as the SAVAK that the CIA helped set up. And so it signed this treaty at a time when really Iran was lockstep and barrel with U.S. policy in the Middle East. And then Pompeo is referring to, when he says 39 years ago, he's referring to the Iranian Revolution of 1979 that overthrew the Shah, who at the time, according to Amnesty International, had the worst human rights record in the world at the time of the overthrow. And so the U.S. would like to see Iran back to a place where it's run by someone like the Shah.
Well, that's the question. You know, talking about the U.S. and the animosity that we are now feeling towards Iran from the Trump administration, where is it coming from? I remember a few years ago, we had a crate full of cash being delivered. We had President Obama was touting their new big Iranian deal. Where is this change in attitude coming from?
Well, first of all, I think that there's been a latent hostility towards Iran since 1979. The U.S. has really never forgiven the Iranian people for overthrowing the Shah. just as they never forgave the Nicaraguan people for overthrowing Somoza in the same year. But yes, there's been ups and downs since that time to some extent. The current hostility has no bearing to what's happening in the world. Iran has been abiding by the nuclear deal that Obama put in place. Iran has helped the U.S. fight al-Qaeda, has helped the U.S. fight the Taliban. There's nothing in this policy except for irrational hatred. And again, I think really going back to the 1979 revolution.
Well, but I mean, if that's 1979, we're now in 2018, 2014, 2012. We've had, President Obama's president for 8 years, and we didn't have this hostility in it. So the question is, why are we now feeling it now? Is this a power struggle that the United States is trying to insert it into between Iran and Saudi Arabia, with the U.S. taking more of a side of Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's part of it, and the U.S. is certainly being spurred on by Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, who is really pushing with a confrontation with Iran. But also remember, General Wesley Clark a number of years ago said that there were plans to overthrow 7 different countries in the Middle East, Iran being the final prize. I'm not sure so much as this is a sea change in U.S. policy as much as it is a timing issue. And now, in addition, we have neocons back in power in the White House in the form of John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, and Mike Pompeo, both who spoke recently at a convention that was hosted by the MEK terrorists, where they openly spoke about regime change. And so, again, I think that really it's a matter of timing. The U.S. has wanted to overthrow the Iranian government since 1979, and I think now they see an opportunity.
Well, thank you, Professor Kovalik, for going into this a little bit more in depth, and the power struggle will continue, and we will have you back on to discuss.
Thank you very much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.